like, I've seen this family. These are my friends. And I was like, I remember at relatively this age, younger actually, but I remember these. So in that essence, I truly enjoyed it. And then of course, I just love the fact that the animation, it felt like it was from Scott Pilgrim, versus
Yep,
the
yep.
universe, controls the universe, whatever that movie was called, and a little bit from the Spider-Verse. Spider-Verse was my first thought, and then
Yeah, yeah,
Scott
yeah,
Pilgrim
yeah.
was the second one for me.
Oh yeah, yeah. They've cut. I saw clips of the interview with directors and not Scott Pilgrim, into the Spider Verse
Was a
was
heavy,
identified. They just came out and said it,
yeah. I was like, I can
which
see
is
all
great.
the influence in it, you know. And then
Yeah,
a little bit Lizzie McGuire, which is again a show that was right on the cusp of when my time with it ended. So I remember seeing bits of it, but without it. But I was like, yo, this is good because for what it is, I also started realizing the MCU is becoming more and more adult. And I've talked with it with friends and stuff like that.
right.
It's more and more, and I want it to be that way because we've been fans longer than these children have ever been. And so I want us to be the presenting audience. But we need entrances for newer generations to come in where it is not going to be so conflicting for the parents to be able to allow their kids to watch it. I remember talking with some friends here, and they're like, you know, even my wife, she's like, you know, I would never let my kid watch an MCU movie before the age of 10 years old because I
Right.
need them to be able to, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
not be the lights and the content. And while I don't necessarily personally agree in total, I also completely understand because it was reflected in other sentiments. So you have a show like this that allows you to have that entry point where it's like, hey, you know, we can actually, you know, give them something that's a little bit simpler. It's a little bit simpler and able to, you know, do it. So
yeah,
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 this was good for exactly what it needed to be.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I at the start there was a lot of the Spider stuff, the Spider Verse
right.
stuff, even the normal Spider Man stuff. I was kind of ticking the boxes of, yeah, here's the bully. Having just
Yep.
seen Stranger Things, okay, we've kind of done the bully thing.
Right.
Walking down the locker room, I got more engaged with it as she got more Pakistani with it,
Yeah.
because it was different. It felt fresh. I don't have a lot to do with Pakistanis, man. I have a lot to do with Indians. And yes,
Yeah.
before you get the hate mail, well, I know they're really, 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 really different. Okay, I really, really, really know that.
You're trying to
Okay,
start another war. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to start another war.
okay, I know, I know. Um, Alec has a little Pakistani friend up the road called Ibrahim, my son, and they're always running around. We play cricket and all that stuff together, which you would have seen it on TV, which was a good touch. But as it kind of linked into the Pakistani thing, and even with the family stuff, that's where I became more. I thought, okay, we are breaking ground here. This is interesting. Part of me still wish it was in Pakistan. Like I would love it
Yeah.
if she wasn't in New Jersey, but
In
anyway.
New Jersey, right?
But you still got to get your audience, right? You got to get that
Right.
American audience. So anyway, and they do blend it. They do blend it. I don't never been to New Jersey. You can tell us what it's like there, but it didn't feel like at least the New Jersey I'd been presented with, or the New York or America I presented. It did feel like something very unique, a Pakistani America, like a America Pakistani. So I enjoyed that. As it got to the Comic Con Avenger Con
Avenger
thing,
Con.
I thought that was. I don't, you know me, I don't go to those things. I never
Right.
will, never dress up. So I kind of went, oh my gosh, this is embarrassing. On one hand, I thought, because I find those things so embarrassing and like, oh my gosh, good on you, go hard, cosplay, whatever you want. But for me, it's just
It's too much.
too
It's
much.
too much.
But it was a little bit of fun just looking around and how they were presenting all these characters, and how they've got little toys around and people dressed up, and kind of the way they're worshipping these people. Well, they're not characters in those worlds. I guess that's what we remember.
So
they're
which
real
is
people in those worlds.
something that really stuck to me because obviously for us, whenever you go to a Comic-Con, it is portraying a character that you aspire, that you wish existed, or that you look to because it's someone you read about, but it isn't real. In this situation, it's characters that exist. So for me, I'm like, who exactly is owning the intellectual property on all of this? Who is actually selling these? And look, for me, any Marvel, anything, I'm looking for the connection. I don't care if they say there's no connection. There's a connection every time.
Yeah.
And for me, I think, and I actually think Thor: Love and Thunder is going to present this a little bit, is that I think the Asgardians are in some way, shape, or form running the merchandising for a lot of this.
Oh, I would love that.
Because look, like we've seen in the trailers, like they have the cruise lines and stuff like that already.
Yeah.
And there needs to be something that makes sense as to what their continued value is on the planet without them actually, disconnecting from the rest of the world. Because it also references back for me to like what happened in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Like whenever Falcon is like, I can't even get a bank loan because I don't have 5 years of history, or who's funding you, or where's your money coming from? The government. And I'm like, yo, this is legitimate. This is like people intellectual property. Captain America is owned by somebody. That intellectual property goes into a trust. Iron Man is intellectual property on a trust. Even that. And so like, and then of course they made the reference of Ant-Man and his podcast, which again, I go back and say like, yo, so who is doing their work? Because this is not a Comic-Con in this world. This is basically the equivalent.
These are real people.
Yeah. It's a museum. It's a museum.
Yeah.
It is a museum theme park.
It is. So, I mean, I think
actually,
I wondered whether
continue on that point. We continue on that point.
Yeah.
I also want to be able to mention, like, whenever the dad comes in the Hulk uniform and in the Hulk costume, my mind is like, yo, you guys had the catastrophe of 2012 in New York, right across the river from you, happen. What would be the equivalent of almost 10, 15 years prior? 10 years prior, it's not that this is like 9/11 happening, and then you like wearing like Air Force pilot uniforms, or you're wearing like something here. I was like, this isn't connected. Like, you had the blip. I get there's a lot of things happening. Maybe it just kind of all runs together after a little bit. But New York got effed up just a little.
I know. Like, well, then
born.
But then everything just went to hell. It's if you sit down and logically think through a lot of things probably shouldn't be as they are.
But I think they're doing it on purpose. It goes back to even like Hawkeye with the play, like showing someone started running strings on merchandising for everybody.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that was so bad, that music. The world's worst music. But I wondered at getting back to we saw a little bit the tension. The tension is there doesn't look like there's going to be a big bad. There's not going to be, an Arthur Harrow. There's not going to be somebody come out and become the big bad. The tension, from what we can see from episode 1, at least, seems to be her internal struggle with, growing up as a young Pakistani girl and with her imagination versus the practical, as migrant families have practical, we need to make a living in this new land, so you need to pull your finger out and do some work.
Right.
Kind of pragmatism. That's the tension there. Then there was the post-credit sequence where I think that guy was from Spider-Man.
No Way Home. Yeah.
No Way Home. So it's good that they're kind of looping that back in.
I'm not gonna lie. I felt like that was a really clunky post-credit scene. Like,
I missed it first time around. I had to go back and watch it.
I'm be honest with you. Every time I watch a show, once it gets to the end, I do the zoom on the credits on the line just to be able to, like, come on. I know even Star Wars from the very beginning, I'm just like, I'm not gonna miss any of these. So let me just see if there's anything, and then let me just get to it. But I thought it was clunky in the sense that it clicked too fast. Like, you watch a video, and I guess to some extent I can understand maybe why they do, but it's like you watch the video and it was really kind of spotty. and you're already assuming that she's powered, like,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you don't. I don't know. It was just a little bit for me,
But
but
but in the end, to me, when I thought it was a really good episode, and
yeah,
in the end, it was kind of what I thought would happen, in that it would be a good episode with not the same stakes as maybe Moon Knight or any of those,
right,
but a personal story. And in the end, it shouldn't surprise anyone that this is good. Because
yeah,
there's one thing that Marvel does really well. It's the one thing that DC, it's one of the many things that DC can't do as well as Marvel, is that they really do have a strong charm factor.
yeah.
They really do
They
know
know
how
how
to
to
make
take them to it.
characters charming. I think you said people seeking to be gods. I think you
Yeah,
said DC's the other way around. And whatever movie or TV show they do, they have always got the quirky, funny, charming thing. And this series to me is going to be close to, I don't know what, 5 or 6 episodes.
yeah, 6, I
Six,
believe.
6 episodes of a charm offensive.
Yeah,
Like it's going to be this very fresh faced, energetic, lovable girl with her mates and her loving but misdirected mum and crazy dad. They do that well. I think they're
right.
gonna have to bring the threat level up a little bit. Maybe this guy, maybe this stuff. But
So
my suspicion is this is going to be a good series because this is going to be that when they do Ant-Man, when they do the Spider-Man, particularly the first 2 Spider-Man,
I was
this
going
is
to say.
very much in their ballpark. This kind of
I was gonna say, and it was actually exactly what I was gonna say. I think we'll see the threat level go up enough, but I think it's gonna be very reminiscent to what we've had with very close to Spider-Man, but not what we got from like Homecoming, because that Spider-Man had already been in action for a little bit, so we never got to see the beginning to that because we've seen it in so many other movies prior. I think we're gonna get that in this situation, but obviously from the standpoint of girl, a Pakistani, and then who lives in New Jersey, basically. So I think we'll get that, but I do think we'll get a big bad that rises up because it's somebody who's going to be localized enough, whether because it's still Jersey, so they're going to probably play into the mafia element to some extent, which would make sense, but not anything that feels out of control, but just enough where it makes sense that she needs to be mentored. So I wouldn't be surprised if, unfortunately, we caught a Captain Marvel cameo at some point in time, maybe at the last episode, or a Photon cameo.
Photon.
Because
a Photon would make more sense.
Yeah, Photon would make more.
She's in the postcode at least.
But at least. Yeah, but the way that they keep trying to play into like, oh, Captain Marvel's so gone, she's not anywhere around, blah 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 blah. And
so
with the bracelet and everything.
Yeah. So can I add another potential mentor coming from that post-credit sequence? The last time we saw that guy was in the legal dealings of Spider-Man: No Way Home,
right?
Which also included Matt Murdock.
Exactly.
We might see Matt Murdock begin to start poking his nose around for a little cameo here and there, just to keep those New York
connecting pieces, right?
Those connecting pieces.
And if it does, I'll be honest, I would be strong. I would doubt if we get Matt Murdock, even though we're getting this basically FBI version, of this FBI types for him. Well, I think they're gonna be. What was it? You remember in Ant-Man and the Wasp where we had those gangsters that kind of were there for the box, but they didn't really impact anything in the story. I feel like that's what's going to happen with this. It's going to be, we're chasing the girl that happens to have some powers, but she lives within the area, but nobody really knows.
What about a little cameo from the Tracksuit Mafia? We could do it a little bit more tracksuit. That would be cool. Just come along with one of the events, try to steal something.
If they did that, please give me a time variation, because I would be hoping that what is happening here is happening relatively about the same time as Hawkeye. But obviously it can't be because it's Christmas. Never mind. I already know it can't be.
because it's summer now in New Jersey.
It's summer in that point. So,
Yeah. But
yeah.
there's, I think a cool little nod to the, to the tracksuit mafia wouldn't go astray. Just
I'd be here for it. But
Let's remind our friends to please click on the subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you know when we have new videos out.
subscribe.
Die. Oh, die.